Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
And I never met a Brayla before.
I know like 3.
Oh, so you're trending. God bless. You know, it's a lot of underteat, but I think I'm getting away with it.
Also, it's on backwards.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. We are live just after 9 o'clock on Monday the 16th of May. So we're already sort of third of the way through the year.
I commented on that with a colleague at work today. I said to them, I can't believe that it is the middle of May already.
Yeah, it's insane how quick it's gone by. Because we had plenty of films coming out. Not so much last week. The week before we had a few. But this week it's absolutely crazy with the number of cinematic releases.
Yeah, and all of them we couldn't get to see, unfortunately. There was one, the new Richard Linklater film, which we wanted to see. But
yeah, everybody wants some.
Both of us, we didn't have the time to, or the fact that cinemas close by didn't decide to show it.
Yeah, everybody wants some, and everybody here at least wants to see it, but just couldn't get to. But we
Richard Linklater's fans, aren't we?
Yeah, well, yeah, we are. You're more so than I am, but you're more so for things like you love Boyhood. I didn't love it that much. I thought it was good, but I do have to admit I love things like the I forget the name of it. I'm getting it wrong now, but the one that this is kind of closer to, Dazed and Confused, which is kind of suits my head perfectly right now, doesn't it? Yeah. But obviously this Everybody Wants Some is kind of like the next sort of decade following on what kind of sequel to that. So it's more the sort of thing I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to try and definitely see it. So hopefully we'll be able to review that next week if it makes its way into the top 10. Question is whether or not it's going to do that because of all of the things being released this week, which is crazy.
Yep. One of the video game franchises nobody ever expected to be turned into a movie is the Angry Birds, and so that's our first film that we're looking at. And then on top of that we have war comedy, so a war film with hints of comedy with Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Turkish drama with Mustang, and then violent thriller with Green Room, horror remake in Cabin Fever, and then thriller with Our Kind of Traitor.
Yep, as usual we'll also start off with some movie news. I have a few, Stuart has far too many, and then we'll have a look at the box office top 10, go through those films, and then we'll go through the DVD section afterwards, which will have the DVD and Blu-ray charts, and then these not so many big releases, but a few releases anyway.
Yeah, Oscar nominated The Danish Girl, Oscar nominated Creed, and then to round things off we have John Travolta in thriller I Am Wrath, and then interesting thriller with Mojave.
Are you going through that title when you're reading that and just thinking you have to think to actually say I Am Wrath instead of saying I Am Wraith? Because I keep going to say that whenever I try and read the title.
I would look at it if I was thinking of Wraith with the I in it.
Yeah, well, obviously.
I in there, so it's my brain will look at it and go I Am Wrath.
Mine looks at it and goes I Am Wrath, and it wants to go Wraith. It's weird.
It's because it depends on what kind of brain you've got. I've been told I've got a very...
I don't know whether to take that as an insult or not.
I've got a very more analytic brain. So, you know these like magic eye tests and all that kind of stuff, where if you can spot a colour which is slightly different to another one and all that, things like that, my brain can do those kind of things really quickly.
Okay. Is it like a analog? No,
I've got a very analytic brain.
No, what's a logical brain?
Well, I analyse things really quickly.
I did that with electrical things, funnily enough.
And I just set myself on fire with electrical stuff. Look, ooh, wire.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, let's get going. And first of all, then do some movie news because we're going to be here all night. I'll start off with a couple casting news, and we're ticking the boxes again. First news out of the gate is a Marvel piece of news. Michael B. Jordan has been added to the cast of Marvel's Black Panther, which is going to be directed by his Creed director Ryan Coogler. See what I did there? Yeah, for this week's show. Also announced as being in talks for the movie are Lupita Nyong'o and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Now, it's interesting, particularly for that, because there has been an announcement saying that they want to try and get around about 90% of the cast to be African or African American in the roles. Now, there's nothing confirming what role that Michael B. Jordan will be playing, although it's possible he may be playing a villain, because they want to have him obviously in a fairly big role. But Lupita Nyong'o, we don't know, obviously she's not been in a Marvel film yet, but Chiwetel Ejiofor, he has been in one, but we haven't seen him yet because, of course, it's not been released yet, and that is Doctor Strange. And in that, he's playing Baron Mordo, so presumably he'll be playing the same character. So there will be that crossover of characters happening, and sort of a supporting character from one film will make an appearance in another.
And Chadwick Boseman is reprising his role, isn't he, as Black Panther?
Yes, of course, he's playing the lead role.
Yeah, it's just in case, because they might have thought that they need to recast him or whatever. But it's an interesting thing that they've decided to go, you know what, we need to make 90% of the cast African/African American. It's probably is the best idea to do. Do that, because considering the character of Black Panther, and the area where he lives in the latest Captain America film, it's a smart idea to do that instead of doing what they're doing, for example, with Ghost in the Shell, by casting somebody like Scarlett Johansson and then going through tests by Asiafying her. It's a really weird thing to do that. So you can just imagine the uproar if they decide to go, let's take a few white actors and black them.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've ever seen Cloud Atlas, there's that kind of aspect of that was done to Cloud Atlas, but in that it kind of was done as it made sense for the actors because it was supposed to be them in different lifetimes, and so that was fine. But if you just basically cast an actor in a role and completely change them up, if you basically Robert Downey Jr.'d them for Tropic Thunder, if you did that, what they did for that character, obviously in that film it was done for a joke effect and for a kind of the whole thing of commentary on Hollywood films. But if they actually did do that, I imagine there would be quite a lot of uproar.
It would be like going back to the 1930s and 40s with the black and white minstrels.
Yeah. I'm thinking that as well. I did get a film recently on Blu-ray. I got Remo, Unarmed and Dangerous, and they did that with the character in that film. I can't remember the actor's name, but I think he was nominated as well, and it had him basically, it was a westerner, and they did makeup on him to make him look Chinese, and this was in the late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember when exactly it was, but if they did that now, I think all hell would break loose.
Yeah, it'll be a weird thing to do, but yeah, we'll see how they handle Black Panther as a standalone film.
I'm looking forward to it because obviously Black Panther was was made an incredible entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Captain America: Civil War, and I thought it was a great introduction to the character, considering that they didn't actually do much character in it for him. They just he was an important part of the plot rather than being a character so much.
For me, it was one of those ones where it was here's a tick, B- could do better kind of things, but it's not one of those ones where I'm looking at it going, yeah, I could see him in a movie, I could go to the cinema and watch him in his own film. It's not one of those ones that's jumping out at me at the moment, but I'm like that anyway with pretty much every single comic book film. But it's still not making me go, yeah, I think a full film about this character would be interesting. I'm not there.
Okay, we'll see if you change your mind when it comes out then. On to my other piece of news, and it is from Shane Black, the director of the upcoming The Nice Guys, who's directing.
Good reviews out of Cannes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it because I might be seeing it a little bit earlier than the release, hopefully, because I'm looking forward to it. It does look very good. But
I watched the trailer of it and I just didn't like it.
But in different track regarding him, he was the guy that wrote. Was involved and actually had a small role in the original Predator, and he is now writing and directing the new Predator reboot, this has been known for a little while. But in an interview with Squared Eye TV recently, he made comments about the rating of the film, saying, "I made it a condition of my participation with Predator that it would be the same rating as the first movie, and the first movie was rated R. In other words, I don't want to cut away every time the Predator does something violent."
Yeah, and he's also turned around and said that he wants to change up the Predator but make it still fitting like it was a Predator rather than mess around with the style of it. It wants to have the Predator have his own look but still feel like it belongs to the series.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to mean if he's going to try and change the look, as in the features of the face, for example, because I mean things like that was designed by Stan Lee, the master of effects.
Like, that's just too iconic.
Exactly, yeah.
You wouldn't be able to mess around with.
They did
like add things to his suit and
the thing is,
things like that.
The thing is that they did kind of mess around with it in Predators, didn't they? Because they had the two types of Predators. You had these ones that were one type and these ones that were another type, which were slightly different. So they have gone that way already. Maybe because of the way people reacted, they'll maybe go back to the original Predator, which is probably a good thing. But you see, they have kind of tried that before, so I don't know. We'll see how that works out, I guess, when the film's released.
Yeah, but remember they tried that before in Alien vs Predator and Alien vs Predator Requiem.
Oh God!
So, and the people who directed Alien vs Predator Requiem did Skyline. So yeah,
sorry, just yawning. Remembering Skyline.
A Paul W.S. Anderson film was better than the sequel.
The Strauss brothers.
Yeah, the Strauss brothers.
How bad is it that I can remember that, but I can't remember the name of people in other films that I should be remembering?
It's normally the bad things that stand out better than the good things, which is scary and unfortunate, that isn't it?
That is scary and unfortunate how my brain works, yeah.
Yeah, it is. News that I've got, because I've got 10 pieces, so rattle through a few of them. But according to Variety, it's been confirmed.
Can I just ask, actually, before we get into them, is any of them a Star Wars one?
No.
Oh, we're not ticking that box. Okay. No. Okay.
Nothing Star Wars related. Actually.
Wow, we're not ticking the Star Wars box this week. Maybe I should go and look for some.
Maybe there's probably one that just broke right now. I wouldn't be surprised. But according to Variety, it's been confirmed that Goosebumps director Robert Letterman will be directing the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. Where we reported on it about 4 weeks ago, that he was in talks to take over and do the Dungeons and Dragons film. Well, now it actually has been 100% confirmed that he will be directing it.
Okay. Not really a big thing for me. I was never massively into Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm not that hyped about it to really be bothered about it at all. I might see it when it's out, but I mean, I don't even remember what it was in it, but I remember that I did see Dungeons and Dragons the movie when it came out, and it was that bad that I cannot remember anything about it other than it was bad.
Yeah, I think they completely just threw out the entirety of what Dungeons and Dragons is and made their own story up. Now, the thing with Dungeons and Dragons, it's very expansive because it's based on the role-playing game, the tabletop game, which at the moment I'm watching something that's shown on Twitch every Sunday called High Rollers, and it's a Dungeons and Dragons thing. It's like on for like 3.5 hours every Sunday, and it's a group of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, the 5th generation of it. And so the cartoon was based off that, and the film was obviously based off the cartoon. But it was one of those weird things where the film came out a good 10-15 years after the cartoon finished. So people sort of like in a way forgot about the cartoon, and they tried to make it a little bit like the cartoon, but failed miserably. At least it wasn't as bad as the straight-to-video sequels, straight to the Sci-Fi Channel sequels. The Trek and Board are reporting that Jennifer Lawrence has been asked to appear alongside Sandra Bullock in the Ocean's 11 all-female reboot, with Gary Ross set to direct.
Do we need this, really?
No.
Come up with something, or if you're doing it, just come up with a good heist movie, but don't have to call it anything to do with Ocean's 11. And what they're going to call the character Daniela Ocean or something. Come on.
It's the Ghostbuster syndrome.
It is, and it's overreaction. If you're doing a reboot or something, fair enough, do it. Don't go, because the original one had all men, we have to do all women in the other one. Technically, they aren't all women in the second one.
No, because you've got like Julie Roberts who appears in them and all
yeah,
that.
Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is one of the 12 supposedly.
So it's just a silly thing. It's like them saying, there's going to be an all-female version of the Expendables and all that stuff. Do you have to actually segregate them off? Instead of just doing that, just do what you should be doing and treat them equal and if you want to split it down the middle, have half and half. Or if you want to just mix it up, just mix it up that way. It's sort of like, I think the Fast and the Furious series are learning that, and they've been learning that with subsequent movies, because now they're looking with the next Fast and Furious film, Fast and Furious 8, to have the main bad guy female. So they were doing that. Letty's character is a very strong character. Yeah, she's the only one, but they still had female characters to leak into the series, and so learn it from that way. If you want to try and do it, just introduce them and then increase them on that front. Don't go female version, male version, segregate them off, battle against each other. It's just silly.
I actually have found a piece of Star Wars news, or related to Star Wars news, and that Gareth Edwards is no longer going to be directing Godzilla 2.
I knew, because that was my next piece of news.
Well, then it is kind of Star Wars related. Go on then.
No, because it's not Star Wars related, because it is Godzilla related, and the fact that Gareth Edwards will not be directing the Godzilla sequel, and it has been moved from its 2018 release to 2019.
Yeah.
A year before the Godzilla vs. King Kong film was supposed to come out.
But it's supposedly a question of whether or not it is because of differences, or whether or not he's just too busy doing Star Wars Rogue One.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Major upset in the Monday Movie Show house.
There isn't a house here. We're in completely different continents.
It's a theoretical house.
I know, but still, though, it doesn't exist. We would kill each other if that was the case. Oasis Films has acquired the rights to create movies based on the classic Atari games Missile Command and Centipede. Yes, a Centipede movie.
Well, we saw Centipede already done in
Pixels.
Yes, exactly. Missile Command, I can actually see working.
It'll work, because it's a very simple idea.
Yeah. It'll just be the whole thing of the politics of it. They just need to work in the whole thing of the politics and the behind the scenes of, getting ready to push the button, basically. All of that, and they'd be able to make a pretty good film out of it. Just give it a good story.
They would never ever go down that route. It's going to be a dumb, pretty button
yeah.
kind of film.
I can dream.
Yeah, you can dream. You should just go back to sleep if you think that's going to be the case. Open Road Films have confirmed they plan to make a movie based on the Playmobil toy range. This comes after the success of the Lego movie and the newly announced Play-Doh and Emoji films.
Oh no. Oh, seriously?
Hollywood is eating itself.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. There is going to be a Play-Doh movie, there's going to be a Playmobil movie, there's going to be an emoji film, and we're getting 2 Lego movies.
Is the Play-Doh movie going to be stop motion?
It has to be, because you can just imagine if it isn't.
They're going to get Aardmen to do it. Aardmen have got to be the ones to do it.
Aardman or Leica. Either of those two, and I'll be actually happy if they got either of those two. But
that's just ridiculous. A Playmobil movie. I can just see it now. Playmobil the movie.
No, I can't.
Exactly. It's just
Universal and Legendary Pictures have announced that they have brought Jurassic World writer Derek Connolly to do some work on the Pacific Rim 2 script. Stephen S. DeKnight, who has done the new Daredevil TV series, will take over directing duties from Guillermo del Toro, who will now produce.
I'm sorry, my eyes are actually watering from laughing at the preposterousness of Playmobil the movie. Oh dear, yeah. Pacific Rim 2. I'm disappointed that it's not going to be Del Toro, but I think Pacific Rim is maybe one of his weakest directorial movies.
No, it isn't.
I think directorially it is. I think he got a bit too in love with the whole kaiju thing in it. I don't think he was objective enough as a director, so I think maybe someone else directing it and him producing it might be a good move.
No.
I don't think.
I'm a huge.
I know you are.
Huge Del Toro apologist, but I think his weakest film is Mimic.
Oh well.
It's a good film.
It's a low budget film though.
Yeah, I know, but I still think Mimic is his weakest film. I also think Hellboy 2 is also not as strong as the original Hellboy. It has its problems. So I think I would go with Mimic and Hellboy 2 before I would go anywhere near Pacific Rim. But yeah, I do like the idea that Del Toro is stepping away from directing it, concentrating on other things, but still having the influence there, and getting somebody like Stephen S. DeKnight, who's shown that he can do gritty with the Daredevil TV series, and so it's going to have grit to it, which might help the film as well. So it's been in development hell, but I can't wait for it. But yeah, they could have gone with much worse, and also getting the guy who wrote the script for Jurassic World to have a look at the script for it, to have a pass over and see what he could do to tweak it around.
So that's not really asking a lot. I don't think that's asking a lot though, because Jurassic World really doesn't have much of a. It's more of a, oh, this happens, and then it's just run, and then, you know, it doesn't really have a lot of scripting really. It's more just big budget and effects and things.
We'll see how it goes. A few more pieces of news. Nintendo, video game company, have announced they plan to release a movie in the next few years. Yes, that movie will be based on their popular Mario franchise. However, they plan to keep it as in-house as much as they possibly can. So unlike with the Mario Brothers movie that had John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, released in the very early 90s, this one will actually be properly in-house with Nintendo, saying, yeah, you can't do that, you have to do this kind of stuff.
I actually have memories of going to see. I do remember going to see Super Mario Brothers at the cinema.
Yeah, and I had my first memory is, that's not Toad, that's not a Gumba, why has he got a tiny little head and a big huge massive body? This movie sucks.
My reaction wasn't quite like that, but yeah, it was maybe along those lines, maybe not as quite outright.
Yeah, and why the heck has Luigi got the surname Mario? His surname was never mentioned in any of the Mario series, yet they thought, oh, let's have Mario's surname be Mario and Luigi's surname be Mario.
Because somebody thought it'd be funny.
It's just, yeah, it's a bad movie. But yet, Nintendo are taking hold of their properties. Of course they will. Betting has been suspended on who the next Bond will be, as odds were slashed heavily on Tom Hiddleston.
Then he supposedly is in talks with people again now, not necessarily about that, but he's been seen with, was it Barbara Broccoli? He was seen with someone, sitting down with someone, so, you know, there's the whole thing of the rumours and everything going on again. What do you think about the rumours of possibly that Idris Elba could be up for it?
Maybe. I can see more Tom Hiddleston as being Bond than Idris Elba, but to be honest, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, you're not interested in Bond at all, are you? So.
No, I couldn't care less. It's not down to the black-white kind of thing. I just think that I think Tom Hiddleston's got more of the Bond kind of suave, sophisticated feel to him rather than Idris Elba. I think Idris Elba would just run in and start beating everybody to a bloody pulp until they released all the information possible, whereas Tom Hiddleston will sort of like get under your skin and then pretty much rip you apart from the inside.
That would kind of make sense. You haven't seen Bastille there yet, have you?
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? No, because that would actually... it kind of sounds like you have, with your description of Idris Elba in Bond mode.
Yeah. Two more pieces of news. A piece of news that you definitely wouldn't be interested in, but Universal have confirmed some details regarding Insidious 4. Lee Winnell will only write the film this time, with Adam Robitel, who directed the really creepy and very interesting Taken of Deborah Logan, set to direct. Lynn Shear will also return as Elise. I knew you would say that. You've never seen an Insidious film.
No, I started trying to watch one, but it was not for me. Not my sort of thing.
You got scared, didn't you?
Move on.
He got scared. But yeah, I like the Insidious series. The second one, not so much so, but I really did like what Lee Winnell did with Part 3. And I actually did like Taken of Deborah Logan as well. It's a movie that slipped under the radar of a lot of people, and I thought it was a very interesting possession film. It actually managed to handle the subject pretty well. It's got a really insane ending, which involves somebody dislocating their jaw and eating a child.
Oof.
Which is a very weird... If you've seen the video to the...
Sounds like Donald Trump all over again.
If you've seen the music video to the Aphex Twin song Window Licker, that's exactly what happens in the end of the Taken of Deborah Logan. But yeah, more
Spoilers.
Who cares? Final piece of news is, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Harley Quinn will be getting her own spin-off movie. However, she'll not be alone. Batgirl looks like she'll be joining her. Margot Robbie will reprise her role.
So they're going to have a Batgirl in the series, and in the... Does that mean that if they're going to do that, they're going to have Batgirl make an appearance in the standalone Batman flick that's going to be done by Ben Affleck?
I don't care.
Presumably they'd have to. Have to be
maybe.
some way of tying it in.
Maybe, but to be honest, it's Batgirl.
Yeah. Let's go into the box office top 10. Starting at number 10 with Bollywood movie 24.
Yeah, it's good that you quantified this with Bollywood film 24, because a lot of people might be slightly confused and think, what, there was a 24 film released in the cinemas? No, it's not based on the TV series. This is based on it's a Bollywood film, so it's musical numbers. It's a science fiction thriller which centres around a father who has to go up against his doppelganger and his own son when he creates a time machine. It's Bollywood, so they love to infuse musical numbers with insanity, and it's on for nearly 3 hours.
At number 9 is Bastille Day.
Which you've just been talking about, Bastille
Yeah,
Day, but I've not seen it.
I'm curious to see what you think about it. I don't think you'd love it, but I think you'd maybe go. It would be a pass the time movie for you. It's not bad. It's not outstandingly brilliant by any chance. It's just by any way. It's a perfectly okay action popcorn film. And Idris Elba is kind of just doing the last man running in saving the day sort of thing, almost kind of like Bond and Jack Bauer saying about 24, that kind of thing. So it's not bad, but it's better than a produced by Luc Besson movie. Yeah. Number 8 is Event Cinema with 28 Days Later.
I would love to go out of anything so far that's been announced for the Secret Cinema stuff. The 28 Days Later one would be the one that would interest me the most, apart from American Werewolf in London, which they've done that as well. But yeah, I wasn't interested in Star Wars or anything like that, or to be honest, Back to the Future as well. I watched it the other day on ITV, and once ITV gets a movie, they milk it really bad. But yeah, seeing 28 Days Later with the experiences from what you hear of what a Secret Cinema film is like, I think it would be interesting to do. But the price... Especially if I'm actually travelling from where I live to there as well. I know you're further than me, but train tickets would cost me a good £200. A ticket for this is about £80, and then you'll have to spend a couple of nights in a hotel as well. The whole thing is going to cost about £300-400.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they were to do a Secret Cinema up in Glasgow or Edinburgh up this way.
I know that they've done tours of it, but obviously it's not going to be as expansive as they do in the area wherever they do it.
Yeah. Number 7 is Zootropolis or Zootopia.
Yeah, I think we've said absolutely everything we can about Zootropolis/Zootopia. It's a very, very good film. I didn't like it as much as you did, but I still appreciated it. I still think that the problem with the film is it's not going to resonate with children as much as previous Disney films have. But that's just a minor quibble with a movie that doesn't talk down to any of its audience. It goes, there's jokes in there for adults, and there is jokes in there for kids. Some of the jokes for kids they will not get. And there are moments in the film also which will make them jump. I was speaking to a friend at the weekend, said that he took his child, and they did jump at one specific moment in the film. So there are moments which will do that, but it's still a really well-made film.
Number 6, I don't think you've seen this one either yet, Eye in the Sky.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, no, another one. If you have to see one of the two between this and Bastille Day, see this, because it is an incredible film. It is Alan Rickman's last on-screen appearance as well. It's a really good, riveting thriller sort of drama that questions the whole thing of collateral damage and the whole thing of drone strikes, which is quite very on point with the world today. And it's got filled with great performances and just nail-biting tension. It's really, really well put together and impressive for just being a film about people sitting talking largely and not much else happening.
Sounds a bit like this show.
Yeah, only this is going to put you to sleep.
Not much happening and people just talking.
Yeah, only they put you to sleep instead of keeping you tense. Robinson Crusoe is at number 5.
So you're saying every now and again we should just do it with a bit of a loud noise to wake people up just in case.
I was just thinking, should I get a shriek noise or something every now and again, just play it or something.
Like a scream at random intervals.
I don't have any ready. I'll have to do that next week's show.
Yeah, Robinson Crusoe is one of those movies where it's sort of like an amalgamation of different countries coming together to create a film based on intellectual properties that already exist. The film was originally going to be called The Wildlife, and it was supposed to centre around the viewpoint from the wildlife regarding Robinson Crusoe and how he crashed onto an island, and the fact that the animals didn't want him there. We haven't seen it, but what critics have said about the film is it is just another one of those typical bog standard badly made films. Unfortunately, we're going to get a lot more, including another Top Cat movie which is out at the end of the month.
I'm not seeing it.
Have you seen the trailer of it?
Nope, but I'm not seeing it either.
Oh god, the guy who does the voiceover in the trailer, he brags from the creator of the first Top Cat movie, and I was thinking, that didn't land very well.
Yeah.
So why would you brag about that? And also the guy who did animation things on Ben 10.
Number 4 is Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yeah, which I did really like. Meryl Streep. She's Meryl Streep. She can barely put a foot wrong when it comes to movies. The thing that she's got for her is she's a fantastic singer, and she has to learn how to be a really bad singer. Because Florence Foster Jenkins, she was dubbed as the worst singer ever, just in the history of singing. Even though we've heard much worse on shows like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, to be honest. But yeah, she was dubbed that, and at the end of the film, if you stay to the credits, you actually hear exactly what she was like. Hugh Grant is really good in the film. One of his best performances of the last 10 years. And he's Florence Foster Jenkins' daughter and husband, and yeah, he's really good in it. But I think it's Simon Helberg who steals the show for me, because it's just these nuances, the fact that you as an audience latch onto him and you become his character, because you wince when she's trying to hit those high notes, yet you want to edge her on to be as successful as she turned out to be. Yeah, all for the wrong reasons, but she gave people hope, and that was the whole point of it. Sags a little bit in the middle. The story is a bit lacking at times, but you can forgive it.
Number 3. Number 3 is Bad Neighbours 2.
You just wanted to skip over Bad Neighbours 2, didn't you?
No, I don't mind it actually. You haven't seen it yet, though, have you? Still? No, but I didn't mind it. It's, I think, better than the first one. I think it's nice though. There are things in the first one that if you've seen them, obviously you need to see them. You get more laughs out of it this way around. I think there's a couple of gags. If you haven't seen the first one, you might not get them what the gags are, because it takes things that are set up in the first one. But I thought it was a perfectly nice sort of sequel follow-up to it. It did add a few little things more to it, and it did touch on the whole subject of sexism and the whole thing of that boys are allowed to have parties in fraternities, but girls aren't allowed to in sororities, sort of thing. So I thought it was quite sort of. It didn't really go the distance it needed to on those, but it did start to touch on them, and that was quite nice. And it had a very nice change of direction for one of the characters from the first film, which I liked. I thought was kind of a bit more ballsy, sort of thing. No?
Okay.
No comment, no. Okay, number 2 is The Jungle Book.
Yeah, very good film. Again, it's another one of those films. It feels like we've been talking about this film for the last month or so, but it's only been out a few weeks. But yeah, it's very well acted from the little boy who plays Mowgli. The CGI stuff, the motion capture stuff is fantastically done. There are a few ropey elements in it, but again, you can slightly forgive it. The storyline is pretty much a retread of the Jungle Book, but Jon Favreau, he adds his own little twists and turns onto it. It's just, yeah, it's a really well created film.
Which means the number 1 movie is still Captain America: Winter Civil War.
Yeah,
that's one.
Nice amalgamation of different films.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Civil War. Yeah.
It's
Civil Winter Soldier War. It sounds like one of the films we've got today, the John le Carré novel or something.
Yeah, it's a really good film. I'm not again keep on saying this, but I'm not as huge comic book fan as most people set out to be. I still personally think that Guardians of the Galaxy is the best Marvel film. This is now
wrong.
Second. That's why I said personally.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
This is second for me. It has again the slight problem with the flat bad guy, and some of the stuff in the film itself when you overanalyze it, and a lot of people have been overanalyzing it. Yeah, let's just say the two people who co-host the video game show that I do, Following the Gamer, I was stuck in a conversation with them at the end of last show that I did for about an hour and a half, and they were picking apart this film inch by inch, bit by bit. I left the conversation and I found out the next morning they were still talking about it at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's like me just banging my head off a brick wall constantly, so you can just imagine what it would have been like for me to sit there during that conversation. But they were picking it apart, going, this is what's wrong with it, blah de blah de blah, that yet Batman vs Superman did this, and it's a stupid thing that people compare them. Yeah, they're superhero films, but they're going for different feels and that kind of stuff, and this is better than Batman vs Superman, but it is still way too long, even though it never feels like it. It's got some really good set pieces in it, but it's just the typical Marvel of the Marvel fare. It's not going to make me jump out of my seat going, yeah, I definitely want to see the next one. It is making me want to see a new Spider-Man film, so at least I can take that big positive away from it. But yeah, it's still a good film.
Okay, so that's your UK box office. Let's go straight on then to our first of our several films covering this week's new releases.
Yeah, Angry Birds, the mobile game that nobody definitely expected to be turned into an animated film. We're getting a slew of video game based films this year. They just released the Assassin's Creed trailer. What did you think of that, by the way?
I don't mind the look of it. I'm not massively into the game, but the trailer had this god-awful choice of rap music to it, which just did not suit the look of the film at all. It was so awful, and I hated it.
It was a Kanye West track, but
no wonder.
I thought the trailer was very muddled.
So pretentious then in that case.
Yeah, it's a very muddled trailer. It's a very messy trailer. But a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed the Ratchet and Clank film, and so that was the start of the video game-based movies. We've also got a new Resident Evil film coming out. There's a Warcraft movie coming out in July, which I think looks more promising than the other ones. But yeah, this was...
I don't. I don't like the look of the Warcraft film at all. I think it looks really, really poor.
I do, but that's just based on the director, Duncan Jones.
Yeah.
So I do from that point of view. But yeah. This is based on the video game, which involves you putting little birds inside of a catapult, firing them at blocks to destroy them and knocking pigs off it. That's pretty much the game, and sort of like translates well into the film. The film centers around the character of Red, who's voiced by Jason Sudeikis. He lives on the island with all the rest of the birds. He's sort of like segregated away from them because he's very, very angry. People don't want him to live there. He's sent to an anger management group, which is led by Maya Rudolph's character, who plays Matilda. And there he meets up with friends who were voiced by Danny McBride, who plays Bomb, and Josh Gad, who does the voice of Chuck. He establishes sort of friendships there when pigs one day decide to hijack the island, run off with their eggs, and so it's up to Red, Chuck and Bomb to try and stop them. They need to, however, seek out a legendary eagle, the mighty eagle voiced by Peter Dinklage. Here's a clip.
If there is a mighty eagle, well, how come we don't ever hear his battle cry?
I don't know. Maybe we have.
What would a mighty eagle battle cry sound like? You know what? I think I got an idea. Maybe something like,
No, I bet it's more like caw-caw, caw-caw. That's theoretically what it's more like scientifically.
Now I'm thinking maybe it's a little bit more subtle. Like a little bit just more majestic, like...
Mighty eagle noises. Oh, it's like running a nursery. Absolute childcare.
Someone has anger issues.
Yeah, and so you heard Josh Gad there, and plays the voice of Chuck. He's the sort of like yellow triangle-esque kind of bird who's able to zip around the island a lot. And Bomb, voiced by Danny McBride, who has... Let's just say, if you surprise him, he explodes. There is a funny scene in the film itself, which sees Bond going home one night to a surprise birthday party, and he blows everybody up. So yeah, the thing with the film is it's completely harmless. It was one of those movies where when you hear about the fact that they're making a movie based on Angry Birds, you're going, yeah, this is going to be an absolute car crash of a film. But because you've got really good voice talents, you're not seeing Danny McBride, which is a good thing. You're only hearing him. It's not like the Adam Sandler effect. When you hear him doing the voiceovers of characters, it's okay. He's tolerable. When you see him though, you just want to scream. And that's exactly the same with me with Danny McBride. I just can't stand the person. Yet when he does voices of characters, I think it actually works. Josh Gad, he is just adept to this kind of thing. People know him as the voice of Olaf from Frozen. But he's got a fantastic range when it comes to different voices, and he mixes it up a lot in this movie. He has a few little singing little bits there, and obviously being able to sing, he shows that off. He's in the new Beauty and the Beast film, where he does the voice of Lumiere, and so obviously he's gonna have to sing in that. But yeah, he's got a really good voice, and the voice cast, I think they've got it down really well. You've got Sean Penn also in there, and Bill Hader, and as I said, Maya Rudolph, and Peter Dinklage does the voice of the Mighty Eagle. But yeah, the film flows well. It's sort of like it takes a bit too long to get to the main set piece, which involves the birds trying to get their eggs back, because I think they rushed that a little bit. It's the last 15-20 minutes of the film, when it could have been a little bit better if they made it the last 30 minutes of the film and just cut a bit away from the first little section. But overall though, there are jokes there which will make you giggle. There are jokes there which are specifically for adults. There's one involving The Shining, which actually made me laugh a little bit. The Shining involving pigs. So yeah, that made me laugh a little bit. But
is there going to be a Here's Johnny gag or something like that?
No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's a Red Room gag.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
If you've watched the trailer and you look at the trailer and go, you know what, I think I might actually go and see that. That's exactly what the film will bring out here. You walk out of it and go, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I giggled a few times. I reached my 4 laughs.
Okay.
It sounds too much like all laughs.
No.
All laughs. Yeah, I reached the 4 laugh level that I set myself when it comes to comedies. I know it's 6 laughs, but 4 for me. It's generous enough. But yeah, I reached that. I smirked a few times, and the animation is fine. The animation isn't anything brilliant to write home about, but I think they capture the characters really well, and so overall it's actually pretty good. A lot of critics have been very sniffly about it, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, I still want to see it, because I was like, oh god, Angry Birds, you don't need that. Then I saw the trailer and I was like, oh okay, the trailer actually did make it look kind of funny. And don't mean like just stupid funny, as in, oh that's funny, it's a good setup joke, and it pays off, and there's little bits in it that, just like the bits like in the trailer where he goes to kick a football instead actually intentionally kicks this, it's a dark humour bit, but kicks a child out into the sea because the child's playing football against his house. Yeah. And things like that, that kind of set up humour that I think just, it's the kind of thing that's simple laughs, but it's good setups and stuff. It's not just stupid stuff, it's kind of thought out for characters and things.
It's one of those movies that never sits still. It's sort of like giving a kid candy. Like as soon as they've ate it, they're just bouncing around off the walls. It's sort of like that. It never decides to lax a little bit. It never sort of like leaves you like 10-15 minutes with nothing to watch. It's always constantly going on. Even though, like I said, it sags a tiny little bit because it takes a while to get to the island involving the pigs. However, it still just bounces along, and that's down to the fact that you've got a really good triangle in the form of Jason Sudeikis, Danny McBride, and Josh Gad. I think they feed off each other really well voice-wise, and I think it helps that you've got those 3 involved. I think it would have been a bit of a different kettle of fish if you got a few other people doing the voices. So I think it suits their characters. But yeah, like I said, it's not going to set the world on fire when it comes to animated films. It's not going to do an Inside Out or a Zootropolis, but it's still going to entertain kids enough. And they know what the Angry Birds is anyway, and so they'll gladly go along to see it.
Okay, moving on to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which is based on the true story of Kim Marker, who wrote the book. The book is called The Taliban Shuffle: Strange Days in Afghanistan and Pakistan. It's directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa, and in the movie playing Kim Baker is Tina Fey, who, at the start of the film, we're introduced to her. She's working at this, basically in an office of a TV news studio. She ends up getting offered the option to go out to Afghanistan to be there to basically report on the things that are happening. Back in 2005, the movie starts, and she's basically there looking into all these sort of things. Gets there, meets some friends, and in amongst them you have Margot Robbie plays a British correspondent. You have there Martin Freeman plays a Scottish news writer, and you have things like Billy Bob Thornton, who plays one of the generals there, who's not entirely happy to see her because she walks around with things like an orange backpack. Here's a clip.
Are you familiar with the term 410-4, Miss Baker? It refers to women who are 4s back home, become 10s when they ship out, and when they're back stateside, they become 4s again.
Are you saying I'm a 4?
I'm saying you carry an orange backpack. I've seen people with actual experience make bad decisions here. So while you're outside the wire with my men, you will in no way distract them, understood?
Are you asking me not to sleep with your soldiers? Because
No, not soldiers, Marines. You're not here to sleep with or perform jobs of any type on my Marines. Clear copy, Miss Baker?
Copy that.
Good. We'll get you out to a fob as soon as we find a ride for you. In the meantime, Captain Stern here will see to it that you get a wet hooch.
What?
It's a tent with a shower. Unless you'd prefer a dry hooch.
I would not, sir.
So here's the thing with Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. You have this whole thing following this character. It starts off in a way you think it's going to be more of a drama than anything else, and then it gets there, and it doesn't become a riotous comedy thing, but it's still a drama all the way through, but it injects lots of little bits of good sort of humour in it there, here and there, and some moments that are genuinely just laugh out loud funny. There is some great performances in it there. Tina Fey is actually really brilliant in the film. Margot Robbie is okay in the film. Martin Freeman is really surprisingly good in it. Billy Bob Thornton, as you heard there, is at his driest in his performance, and it really plays well for his scenes, because he plays like a general who just doesn't want anything to do with her, but then kind of comes round to her way of thinking, and she wins him over with the way she does things in an unfriendly sort of situation where she should be sort of cowering and afraid of gunfire. At one point she runs out into the middle of a gunfire to get some video footage, and he basically just walks up to her and says, "Hoorah, Baker," and just walks off in a sort of kind of impressed thing. And you kind of take that away from it. You end up being kind of impressed yourself with the film and with the cast and the way it's done. I gotta say, I was not expecting it to be like this. The only thing I can liken it to in that regard is that it reminded me at times, not of the level of kind of vulgarity of there, isn't it, but of the style and the fact of that it's funnier than I was expecting, reminded me of things like Wolf of Wall Street, because I when I saw Wolf of Wall Street, I was expecting it, being the people who were involved with it, to be a serious drama and to be quite dark, and it wasn't. It was a very humorous dramatic thing, but it had loads and loads of humour in it, and this was very along those lines. It got great reaction from the audience I saw it with, a lot of laughs. It definitely passed the 6 laugh test, even though it's not a comedy, it's a drama, but it's just got lots of good adult humour into it. And I don't mean adult as in that it's, bodily fluids, that kind of thing. It's not that kind of adult things. It's smart humour. It's not dumb humour. It's not kids humour. It's sometimes there's things like that, to do with people being drunk and stuff, but it's not things in it that are just basically you're sitting there and you're going, oh yeah, that'll make a 5-year-old laugh. It's a 15 rated film, so obviously 5-year-old wouldn't watch it, but there's none of that kind of humour that's just there for the sake of it. It's humour that's actually genuinely makes you laugh, and I was really impressed with it. I gotta say, I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. The story takes some nice twists and turns. There are a couple of moments when it does things you're not expecting, because it's telling the story over a period of years, and you have the whole thing of the character, how they start off in one way, and as they go through their life in this situation and find themselves starting to adapt to it and changing, and then questioning the fact of whether or not they want to be adapting to it and changing and becoming this type of person. And that's also makes it a lot more interesting and engrossing as a film. So it kind of engaged me in a lot more ways than I was either expecting it to, or wanted it to, and or needed it to, and it did a fantastic job. And it's one of these great sort of films about a dark subject of the whole Afghanistan war and everything, and you think, oh, it's going to be another one of these sort of things. It's not. It's very, very different. I definitely encourage you to go and see this, because I think it would be an enjoyable film for everyone.
Yeah, I was nowhere near enamored with this film as much as you
Really?
were. I went to see this in an empty cinema, literally empty cinema. I was the only person in the screen of it. Yes, it was a Sunday afternoon, but it's sort of like it's sort of like a good time for an excuse for couples to go, you know what, we went out the night before, let's go and watch something a bit more like not as heavy-handed or as over the top as like going to see explosions in Captain America, or going to see like animated hijinks in the Angry Birds film or something like that. Let's go and see something like Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. But that wasn't the case. The screening, like I said, I think the cinema made a bit of a mistake, because they put it in one of the biggest screens, and they were never even going to ever fiddle half that screen with this
That's
film.
a shame.
See, the problem I had with the film is it never quite balances the comedy with the drama. It never ables to do that for me. It never be able to manage to mesh it together well. When it tries to be comedic, it feels like it's forcing the comedy on you, going, you know what, we're not going to make a dark drama movie. If that's what you want, then this is the wrong film. Let's have a few jokes here. But then the directors change their mind and go, yeah, we are going to make the film dark, so let's take out the humour and let's add the darkness here. And it just never sort of like melds together well. The performances are fine in the film. They're distracting at times, but the performances are fine. It's just when it tries to meld things together, it just never works for me. There is the example of the film best I can give with it is my feelings of it is when Tina Fey's character explains that people forgot about the Afghanistan war when the Iraq war happened, because they were happening pretty much side by side, and how difficult it is for her to get any kind of story shown on the news, because the soldiers that were involved in the Afghanistan war, people back home never found them to be interesting enough. They might have sort of like a story in a 30-minute news bulletin that might last 2 minutes, whereas previously at the start of the Afghanistan war, those kind of things were headline news, and so it was difficult for her to try and get any kind of story onto the news channels, and that made me think about how the film feels for me. It feels exactly like that. It struggles to try and get any kind of attention, and so it's just, I went out to the cinema going, I knew how you felt about the film. I listened to a few reviews regarding the film, and it's been getting mixed bag. It's been getting, there's some critics out there who didn't like the film, yet there's some critics out there who really did like the film. I'm sort of like more in the no camp than I am to the yes camp, but I'm one of those people who peeks over the fence a little bit, going, yeah, I can understand why you like the film, but then I'm not looking back at the people who didn't like the film, going, yeah, I can agree with you as well. So I'm not on the fence, but I'm a little bit more into the no camp, because you just didn't mesh as well with the film, and at times I was starting to feel bored, because I never felt like the story had anywhere to go. It just didn't feel like it was going anywhere, so I was nowhere near enamored with the film as much as you were.
No, I definitely was enamored with it more. I did enjoy it more, and I actually really want to see it again. I really want to go and see it, because I found there was so
difficult to watch it a second time.
Yeah, and I can guess that from what you're saying, but for me, it's a film that it really kind of, I thought, did really well with the subject, which is difficult to do. It's a difficult subject to do in film, and to make it funny as well, which I think is what it does well, but obviously you struggle with that, so maybe not. But I really enjoyed it, and I hopefully, if I get time, probably not, but I will maybe try and see it again if I can.
Okay. Mustang then. Mustang was nominated, was Turkey's entry not into the Eurovision Song Contest, but into the Oscars. This went up against the evidently winner, which was Son of Saul, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And so I seem to be getting the really gritty, dark dramas, because Mustang's sort of like, in a way, it is nowhere near as brutal as Son of Saul, but it follows the same kind of feel to it. It's directed by Deniz Gamez Ergüven, and it's
that name again?
Deniz Gamez Ergüven.
Damn.
It centers around specifically 5 sisters. Now, I want to actually give the actresses their due course. Their names are Gunnar Sensoi, Doga Zenep Dogslu, Tugba Sugarugalu, Elet Iskan, and Ilya Akdogan. So they're the 5 actresses involved. To my knowledge, I don't think they've done anything before. And their innocence spirals out of control when one day they're playing in a lake with some friends from school, specifically male friends from school. A neighbour sees them doing this. She reports this to not their parents, but to their grandparents, because that's who they live with. The grandparents are in shock because they are heavily involved with the community around them, but they are also their religious beliefs are on the heavy side of it. And so what they do is, during the course of the film, they slowly turn the girls into prisoners in their own in their home, barring up the windows, locking doors, not allowing the girls to have any interaction with anybody else. As soon as they try to do something, they reel them back. One night the girls escape to go and see a football match when all males are not allowed to go and see it because of the trouble that they cause, and the girls sneak out and it causes them to get even into more trouble. So much so that their grandparents starts marrying each one of them off, which then spirals out of control badly, and horrible consequences start to happen. Now, like I said, the film itself is very dark, but never in a brutal fashion. There are a couple of scenes which slightly are shocking, but the shocking element of the film itself is how this is happening today. This is how very religious Turkish families treat their children, specifically females. If you think that, you look at the way female actresses are treated in Hollywood, if you think that's bad, it's got nothing on what people in females have to suffer in countries like Iran, in Turkey, countries like that. They aren't allowed to do anything unless the males say so. And so these girls don't want that. They want their independence. They want to be treated like children, but also given the chance to interact with everybody else, have just a pretty much normal life. And they're not allowed to have that. And so obviously they're going to hit out of it. Everybody involved in the film is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It is, like I said, it is one of those movies where you're going to be hit by graphic scenes or anything involving the levels that you do see in the film Son of Saul. But it is still extremely interesting. You can sort of see why Son of Saul beat this to win the best foreign language film at the Oscars. But that's not to say this is a bad film, because it's nowhere near a bad film. It's an extremely interesting, very well constructed story that shows you how Turkey needs to evolve. They need to step away from a lot of their beliefs and start to get into the 21st century. Because if you categorize them, countries like the United States and the UK, and even places like Japan and Australia, are more 21st century, whereas countries like Iran and Turkey are still stuck in like the 16th, 15th century, because their backwards outlook on life, the way they not only just treat women but children as well, is abhorrent, is really bad, and it reflects that in this film. So yeah, it's definitely worth a see. If you can't see it in your local independent cinema, and there's a lot of independent cinemas that are showing it, you can actually stream the film on Curse On Demand, and I think it's only something like £8 on there. So the price that it would have normally cost you to go and see this in the cinema, you're able to actually watch it at home on Curse On Demand, and I would definitely implore people to do that. You can also do that with Son of Saul as well. It's a brilliant service, Curse On Demand, for smaller films like this.
Okay, on to the next film, which is Green Room. Now, for anyone who isn't aware, Green Room is the kind of the backstage room that's used by a band before they're going to go out on stage to get ready and prepare and, you know, be in their own sort of space before they go out to do the performance. The film follows a group of a band with members. You had played by Anton Yelchin, Joe Cole, Alia Shawkat. You have sort of the 5 members of the band that are all there. They basically start off They're at the beginning of them, we're introduced to them. Actually, they've crashed in a cornfield as they've been driving late at night. Whoever the person is that's driving has fallen asleep at the wheel, and they've crash drive even into this field. They wake up, they go about their kind of normal routine, which is stealing fuel from other cars via sucking it out of the gas tank and then putting it back into their car so they can get to where they're going. They're on their way to a gig that they've found, which turns out to be an absolute sort of fall through. Nothing happening there. The guy sets them up with this other one, which is out in the middle of nowhere. They say, okay, we'll go and do this. They get there, and it's literally out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. There is this old sort of shack bar place of a kind of a style, and it turns out it is a kind of neo-Nazi hangout. They go out there not feeling comfortable, but deciding we need to do this, we haven't got any money, we're supposed to be getting paid, do their gig and everything seems to be going fine for them. They're all ready to go, set up. One of them unfortunately has left their phone charging in the green room, where there's another band in there now getting ready to go out after them, the headliners of the night. One of them goes in there to get the phone, unfortunately walking into a murder scene and becoming witnesses to such a scene that they end up then being held in the room and kept sort of hostage there, waiting for the Darcy, the man that they've called, to come and sort things out. What they do though is, in the meantime, obviously the guy that's there holding them has a gun on them, and it's a question of 5 of them rushing him, with him having the one gun. Here's a clip.
Alright. He's got 6 bullets.
For real?
We all go at once?
Guys, hold off a second.
For what?
We haven't done anything.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. They're called cartridges. The bullet is a part that enters your brain if you keep talking shit. And this gun only has 5 cartridges, not 6. Because they're big as and only 5 fit the cylinder. So please, shut the up and don't test me.
You're making it worse.
We sit and we wait.
And we die?
Not if you sit and you wait.
So you have the film is all sort of a twist on the kind of thriller situation, but it's a film that then, when things start to escalate, they start to escalate very quickly and very graphically, and there are some moments of genuine shock terror in the film. It is directed by Jeremy Solner, who also wrote the film, and his last film was I forget the name of it now. Blue Ruin. Yes. Have you seen Blue Ruin? I can't remember if you had, because I know you have seen it.
But to be honest, I didn't like Blue Ruin when I first watched it. I don't think I was in the proper frame of mind to see it. I need to rewatch it again, and I'll actually promise to rewatch it again, probably for next show, because I don't have as much to watch this week. Right, because the thing is with Blue Ruin, it was a film that came out of nowhere, was a very, very surprising one, because it had the main actor in that, Macon Blair, has a role in this film as well. And it's a film that has a very similar feel to it. If you've seen Blue Ruin, it's a very different film, and Blue Ruin does have a shockingly graphic scene early on in it. This film doesn't have a shockingly graphic early on. It has lots of shockingly graphic scenes towards the last half of it. But you have this whole thing of that what's good and what really, really good throughout the film is the tension and the sense of these 5 people trapped in this room while there are people outside that are basically planning to kill them and stop them getting away. You have brought in at one point, then comes into the story, is Patrick Stewart's character, Darcy, who is kind of the guy that runs the place and is brought in to essentially fix this problem. And the thing is that up to that point, it's okay. It has its moments. There are some bits and pieces which it could have done without. Once Patrick Stewart turns up, though, it is honest to God, one of the most impressive films that I have seen in a while, because of the fact that it manages to then all culminate into this thing of that you've got the frenziness of the characters being trapped in that room and the things happening to them, the situation of them being so tense and stuck in a situation and what they're going to do, and while outside you have almost the complete opposite. In a lot of films you'd have, the guys would be outside going absolutely mental, all trying to break in and everything. They'd be going crazy, they'd be running around screaming and shouting, and instead it is calm as anything outside. His character is seriously just underperformed intentionally, as if to be
not menacing, but because of the fact he's not being menacing, because of the fact he's not being so aggressive and he's being so calm, it's very, very intimidating a role. It's very, very impressively kind of scary performance from Patrick Stewart in it. Not to negate anyone else's, Anton Yelchin is really good in it. I'm still not a fan of you have in the film Imogen Poots, who I'm not a big fan of in most of her roles. Who does a good job in the film, better than I've seen her in lots of things. I still don't think she's particularly great in this film. Macon Blair is very, very good in his role. He's basically playing kind of the underling working for Patrick Stewart's character, who doesn't necessarily want to be there but is going along with things. And it has these interesting characters that are doing things in this situation that would normally be that they wouldn't think to put character in there. It would just be the situation and that's what happens. Instead, this has the situation and the characters and how they react and how they behave in it and how it affects them and the things going on and the panic and the terror of that happening really does come through on the film, especially at crucial moments. I was not expecting it to be what it was in the last half of the film. I was kind of put off, but at the same time really enjoyed the fact of that it's a film that, and I'm not going to say any more than this, but not everybody makes it. And it's a film that I really was not expecting to walk out of it, and I walked out very kind of shocked and almost in a daze of, okay, that happened, but not in a bad way, and kind of like, okay, I need to go and have a drink now or something, because it's an 18 and it genuinely deserves it.
I really want to see this film. I was trying my best to seek out this film to see over the weekend, but unfortunately scheduling stuff just decided to mess around with the chances of me being able to see it. And unfortunately, with me working during the week as well, by the time I finish work, I would have to take a train.
Yeah.
It would take about 25-30 minutes to get to a cinema that will be showing the film, and so that's out of the question. So I need a hope, for hope's sakes, that I don't mind mentioning them because they're an absolutely fantastic cinema, but the Tyneside Cinema in Newcastle, I hope for hope's sakes that they'll still have one or two showings of Green Room at the weekend on even if it's late afternoon, because if that's the case, then you know what, X-Men Apocalypse, you can go to heck for all I care, because I really do want to see this movie.
I mean, the thing is, I actually saw it a couple of weeks ago on a preview screening. If it had been just seeing it this week, I would have struggled as well, because I didn't manage to see everything I wanted to see this week as well, and it's just been a crazy week because of everything that's been out. And it's a film of all the films that come out, it may not be the movie of the week, but it's definitely a better film if you are into that sort of film. It's not going to be it's not going to be to everyone's taste. There'll be people, I mean, a couple of people when I saw it actually walked out at one point when it became very graphic, and there's moments in it where the entire audience, me included, kind of went that gasp shock of, oh wow, we're going there, okay. And it's kind of like, oh, take a breath, calm down, sort of thing. And the thing is as well, before that, the reason I say bring up Blue Ruin, not just because it's the same director who wrote and directed them both, but because he manages to instill that same sense of dread into the film long before it all hits the fan. But he's managed to put that sense of dread into the film consistently throughout, and that's quite rare to do as well.
Yeah, but I need to seek out this film.
Yeah, you do.
Unlike you should not seek out Cabin Fever. Now,
is this the one you were telling me about?
It might be, but who would have thought that it would be a good idea to remake an Eli Roth movie? And not just actually remake it, pretty much do exactly the same film. Because that's what they've gone and done with Cabin Fever. They've gone, and the director, in this case it's Travis Zarwinin, and what he's gone and done is he's looked at Eli Roth as a producer on this film, and go, you know what, I'm just going to copy it. Because he might have been thinking, yeah, people are forgetting what happened in Cabin Fever, and so let's just copy of it. There was 2 sequels released to the original Cabin Fever film, and this one, it follows kids in the middle of the woods. They find a cabin, they decide to spend time at this cabin. However, a biological thing is in the water, which as soon as one of them drinks it, she starts to become infected, and people start to become infected around them, and so it's up to the kids to see if they can try and survive. It's horrible, the film. It really is a horrible, horrible movie. The first Cabin Fever is actually not bad. It still remains probably says Eli Roth's best film, and it was his first film. Even though I quite liked Hostel, didn't much like Hostel 2. I quite liked the first one. Is the second you actually watch Hostel with its commentary on it, especially when he's sitting alongside Quentin Tarantino, and they're pretty much having a hugging session, going, "I love you, Quentin. I love you too, Eli," and all that kind of stuff. It makes you hate him even more. Well, Cabin Fever is a very straightforward kids in the middle of the woods kind of stuff, but it works. In this one, every single decision that the kids made seemed more dumber than what they did in the original film. And they were quite dumb in the original film. It's just really badly executed, really badly created, really badly acted. It's out in cinemas for a week. It's out on Blu-ray and DVD in a couple of weeks' time. Don't even bother watching it then. It's awful. Absolutely awful.
Okay, so we know that's not going to be the cinema movie of the week. Okay, the last film I'm covering this week, because unfortunately, as we said, there is also released this week, Everybody Wants Some, which is Richard Linklater's film. We will promise to try and see it this week for next week's show. If it makes it in the top 10, then we'll be able to go through it. If not, unfortunately, it'll be missed. But this week also released was Our Kind of Traitor, which is directed by Susanna White. It's based on the John le Carré novel. It centres around the characters of Perry and Gail, played by Ewan McGregor and Naomi Harris, a married couple who are on holiday. Their marriage is not at the best situations. You find out why later for a reason as to why, but they're there on holiday. Things are sort of not going so great. Their holiday's about to end soon, and what happens is that they're at this party. The two of them sort of separate for a while because she has to go off and deal with work on her phone, and he gets invited to go to a party by Hector. Sorry, not Hector, by I've got the wrong name, by Dima, played by Stellan Skarsgård. And Dima is a guy who's basically there having a party and everything, has these bodyguards following him around. He ends up sort of talking with him, brings him to his house where there's this big party going on, big extravagant thing, and while he's there, sneaks him away into another room and gives him a USB flash drive and says to him, "Take this to your MI6, I need you to help me. My family is going to be killed because of changes that are going on in the Russian mafia, of which he is kind of their accountant." So he's on a time-sensitive thing of that if Perry doesn't take this back to the back to the British government, then Dima and his entire family are going to be killed. Here's a clip.
I said I didn't want my wife involved.
I'm sorry, would you like to wait outside?
Involved in what?
I brought something over for Dima.
What?
I don't know.
How'd you like to sit down? I have some questions. Not tough, medium soft. Is this all he gave you?
Yeah.
Didn't offer you any money?
Oh, he did, but I refused.
Then why did you bring it?
I thought it was the right thing to do. He said that his children would be killed if I didn't.
You believed him?
He seemed scared.
He told you he was a member of the Russian mafia. And you still agreed to help him. You haven't checked the contents of the memory stick?
No, I thought I could just hand it over and be done with it. I thought that would be it, you know?
So you have this whole thing going on, while in the meantime there is this plot connected to this to do with a bank that's being set up in London, which is being connected through several people, including a particularly strong PM, and things going on there. And you heard in that clip there Damian Lewis's character, who really wants to get this person for basically doing fraud and for manipulating stocks and things and having money laundering things going on. And so it's all about the game of, can he get this all authorised, get this all going ahead, and manage to save Dima's life and his family's life. It is one of these things that it's a proper thriller. There's not really any action sequences to it. There's a couple of bits where people are sort of having a fight in small situations, but it's not that type of film. It is not what's become known as the sort of the typical action spy thriller. It is a classic spy thriller in that there's not big action set pieces. It's just the whole thing of the thrill of will this person get away? Is this going to happen? Can we get him out in time? That sort of thing. And it's really nicely done in the fact of that it manages to engage you fully. It gets quite stressful in a couple of scenes. It does have some pacing issues, and it does have predictability issues when it gets towards the end of the film. There was definitely something that happened towards the end of the film that you knew was going to happen, and just not only that, I think, from the story, but I think because it's just telegraphing what's going to happen. And it's nicely put together, and it's very well handled with some good performances in it. Naomi Harris is there to do, at certain points she has some moments, but a lot of the film she is quite sort of underused. Damian Lewis is giving a good performance in his role. Ewan McGregor is actually giving a really good performance in this film. Stellan Skarsgård is great in his role, but just in that way that Stellan Skarsgård is, he's just very captivating on the screen. And I really enjoyed it, despite the fact of that about 2/3 of the way through I knew how it was going to end. I knew what was going to happen. I knew the last half hour of the film just from everything that had been set out before it. So it's a good sort of faithful, I think. I don't know the book, but I know it's not one that's been made up to do things and make it an action film and everything, as a lot of films nowadays are. It's being faithful in kind of that way that like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was, that it doesn't blow things out of proportion, it just tells the story. And I really, really liked that about it. I thought it was very nicely handled.
Yep.
I think I'm wondering if you're like, because you really liked Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I wonder, because this doesn't have as many sort of great performances in it as that did, but it tries to do that similar kind of thing. So I'm curious. I think you might enjoy this. It's kind of film that you might, a thriller you might like. There might be parts of it that you struggle with, and you might find it does kind of approach on kind of boredom territory at certain points. But I think that if it was a little bit shorter, it would be a lot more like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
See, the thing with me with Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is I never treated it like a spy film.
Exactly.
Which is the smartest way to actually going about that film, because you should not treat it like a spy film. And so by the sounds of it, that's exactly the kind of mindset you need to be in with this kind of film as well.
It is, yeah. It's just a case of the trailer has kind of made it out to be a lot more of, oh, what's this? It's a big blown up thing. Even though there's no action in the trailer, it's edited in a way that it gives that feel to it, and it's not that kind of film.
For me, the trailer gave off a better at home kind of vibe to it, so I think I might just wait for it to come out there, because I think I might be able to latch onto the film a bit better in a home environment rather than sitting in a cinema.
That's possibly true, yeah. Okay, that's it for this week's cinema section. We're going to have a quick break, after which, as usual, we'll come back to this week's DVD section. We'll be back in a moment.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show, where we're into the Blu-ray and DVD section, and we're looking at these 4 films.
Yes, Tom Hooper's latest film, based on a true story of the Danish Girl. We have the return of Apollo Creed's son in Creed. We have a couple other smaller films with John Travolta in I Am Wrath, and Mojave starring
Oscar
Isaacs,
and even Mark Wahlberg.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, did not know that.
Yep.
But those are what we've got coming up.
And on top of that, TV movie of the week, and where we always start things off anyway, it's the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. So at number 10 is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I literally was last night thinking, I'm going to watch Age of Ultron. I want to watch it again. I just felt like I wanted to watch it again, and I don't know why, but because it isn't the best of the Marvel's films. I don't think it's the worst, but I think it's amongst the ones that are kind of, a lot of people have low opinions of it. I quite enjoyed it, but it's a film that is a bit of a mess in some terms of the story and what's going on with it. It's kind of like a stopgap film, but I enjoyed it. I liked it.
For me, it's out of the Marvel films, this is the one that dropped the most in my eyes. when it come to watching it, because I watched it and thought, you know what, this is okay. But after seeing it a second time, I watched it and got, this is not very good at all. This is pretty bad, because I didn't like Iron Man 3, full stop. I didn't like Iron Man 2 at all, but I didn't like Iron Man 3, full stop. And I watched it a second time, and my thoughts of it never changed. Whereas with this one, I thought, yeah, it's okay. But I watched it a second time, and I go, what was Joss Whedon doing? What was he? This is not Joss Whedon. This just is not him. And I just didn't get on with it at all the second time. And number 9 is Bridge of Spies,
which is kind of classic Spielberg brought to nowadays modern day filmmaking. It's got some great moments to do with the whole thing of the sort of the spy era of the Cold War, but also it looks at, you have the kind of the personal side of it, with Tom Hanks' character being asked to go and negotiate between the two sides, and the sort of the look over the other side of the wall, as it were, that he sees and the way that he experiences things there. And it's also, at the time, considering again the subject, we were talking about this earlier, a film that's covering a very dark subject and yet still manages to be light without making light of it.
Number 8 is In the Heart of the Sea,
which is a film with very, very many problems. It's a nice sort of thing to see the kind of the true story, as it were, behind the story of Moby Dick, but it's a film with that there are moments in it where it does drag out certain bits far longer than it needs to. It definitely is a very mixed bag in terms of the performances, in terms of the effects especially, and in terms of the pacing. It's definitely below the levels of what Ron Howard is capable of doing, and that's a shame, because he can do so much better than this, that you come out of it and you go, I was okay with that, but I wanted more. It's Ron Howard. I wanted more.
And number 7 is The Lady in the Van.
Great performance from Maggie Smith. Everything else about the film is very average. I think the story is very muddled, the way it's written, the way it's told, but her performance does lift it and elevate it above that.
Number 6 is Ant-Man,
which I really, really enjoyed, because it's a very nice change of pace for Marvel after all the films they've done, and this is the one directly after Avengers Age of Ultron, and it went for a little kind of heist movie thing, and that's not meant to be an in-joke of the little thing. It's a nice kind of change of pace that they decided to do something different and do a different type of film, and I thought that was very clever, and I thought it was nice and witty, and it was a fun film.
Number 5 is Spectre.
We've done this so many times, so we'll just go on to the next one.
Yeah, number 4 is New Entry for Room.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed it's not going in higher. I wanted it to go in a bit higher in the chart. It's a really great actor performance piece, but it's all round well directed, well written. It's got this whole thing about, again, having a dark subject, and it's not made funny in this film. It's not a comical film, but it's a film that manages to do a story about a very dark subject without being very dark and very depressing. It actually is uplifting, which is the thing that's surprising about it.
And number 3 is Daddy's Home.
You didn't like it so much. I thought it was perfectly fine and enjoyed it, laughed at it and had fun. I think the key to it is the chemistry between Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. I think their kind of buddy bromance sort of thing there is working fine in the film, and that helped me with it.
Number 2 was Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I mean, we think that Star Wars The Force Awakens is enjoyable, good. It's not brilliant, but it's got what it takes to be a good Star Wars film, and I thought it was perfectly fine. I don't love it as much as I do some of the classic Star Wars films. I do have problems with it because it does feel like very much a rehash of them, but it's a lot better than the prequels that were done, and has a lot more interesting characters and great performances from new cast.
And number 1 is A New Entry for the Hateful Eight,
which I really enjoyed, but not for the aspects you think. I really enjoyed it because of the fact it feels like a stage play filmed it's inside mostly, and it's all in a tight room, and it's all shot in a really interesting way, and it's all about the performances, and that it is about the way it looks and the way about the western setting and that sort of thing, and outside everything. I love the whole closed in, the tension that builds between the characters and their interactions. I think that's really nicely done, and I do love the camera work inside this small space that makes it look interesting and visually impressive while not being about the visuals.
And that's it for the Blu-ray and DVD top 10. So I'm onto the DVDs of the week. You've got the Danish Girl first.
Yep. So directed by Tom Hooper, and it's based on the novel by David Ebershoff. It is the true story of Einar Wegener. I'm not sure on the surname I'm pronouncing it, but Einar is played by Eddie Redmayne in the film, and Gerda, his wife, played by Alicia Vikander. And it's in the 1920s in Denmark. I couldn't think of the word for Danish then. In Denmark, and the two of them are sort of a couple of painters that are living sort of fairly happily together. Things are kind of going okay for them. Einar's artwork is doing well in sort of the art circles. Hers is not doing. Gerda's is not doing well at all, and not being sort of picked up. At one point he's doing sort of landscapes, and she's doing models and drawings of models and paintings of models, and her model is late for doing a modelling in the studio to paint. So she ends up talking Einar into wearing the tights and wearing the shoes that she needs for her model. Next thing she's going, it doesn't work, I need the dress as well. So she gets him to not wear the dress, but he sits and holds the dress in his lap and wears it sort of on top of him. And unawares to Gerda, while this is happening, Einar has a kind of an awakening, a revelation in himself that this is more sort of, this is how he feels, this is how he should be, and starts to realise the whole issue of sort of transgenderization and being a woman trapped in a man's body. The thing then sort of starts to blow up more and more when he and Gerda start to sort of both become aware of this. Things start to kind of explode, and she takes him dressed out as Lily into one of the parties where she's there, and Lily, as it turns out, is a big smash and big success. Unfortunately for Gerda, the problem is that Lily then becomes more of the dominant personality, the what Einar is, rather than being Einar. Here's a clip.
God, it all sucked. Where did it go well? Tell me, how was it?
You'd know if you'd been there.
I made us a supper.
You should have come.
It's a little sort of celebration.
This is not how it goes. We do these things together.
That was you and I now.
Stop playing that stupid game.
Please, Gerda. Don't you think this is a game?
You should have been there.
How could I? Look at me.
Not everything is about you. I need to see Einar.
Let me help, please.
I need my husband. Can you get him?
I can't.
So the thing is with the Danish Girl is I watched this at the same time. I actually watched, in the same day, I rewatched The King's Speech, which was also directed by Tom Hooper, and I, as much as I think that Tom Hooper is a great director because he did those films, he did Les Miserables, and I think he did a great thing. I think this is actually his weakest film of the three, because of the fact of that you have these two great actors. You have a great performance from Alicia Vikander, who rightly won an Oscar, though it should have really been for Best Actress, not Best Supporting Actress. Eddie Redmayne, I think, is actually underused in the film, considering that he is basically sort of one of the main characters and is given enough to do, but it feels as if, for me, it just felt as if it was being forced. It didn't feel as if it felt natural to me. I don't know if that's maybe the subject didn't match with me or something didn't match, but I watched it and I just found Eddie Redmayne's character didn't click with me. I thought that there was such a potential for the whole thing of as we heard in that clip, that she sees himself as Lily more than Einar. And at that point, I just didn't feel that Lily was who the character was. I still felt that it was more Ina than Lily. It didn't work for me. I do think the one thing that starts out, and the film shows possibility of that happening and that being brought through to screen more, because at the very start of the film, Eddie Redmayne's character is completely cold and unfortunate, uncomfortable and out of place, and it doesn't work at all right at the very beginning, as it shouldn't. And then the moment when he is given the dress and starts to become sort of awakened by it, that's when his character starts to become interesting. It's just that for me, towards the end of the film, that's when I started to unfortunately lose interest in his character, and you don't want that. I didn't engage with the character for the majority of the film. I did find myself fully engaged with the Gerda character, with Alicia Vikander's character and her difficulty in dealing with the situation, and then coming to terms with it and actually helping her husband through what his sort of predicament was, and into becoming who he was or who she was, sort of thing. And I thought that was really well handled. I just found Eddie Redmayne's, I don't know if it's the performance, if it's the direction he was given, or if the way it was filmed for his part, but I just found that actually distracting the more the film went on. And I can understand, I think, why he didn't win the Oscar for it, because of the fact of it wasn't, I think, an Oscar worthy performance. I think it was worthy of nomination, but I don't think it should have won. And on that respect, I'm kind of pleased that he didn't win it, because I think if he'd won it, it would have been out of place. I think it wouldn't have been earned as much as he had for his other film, for Theory of Everything. But I mean, he does give a very good performance, and I found it difficult to engage with, and that threw me off the film.
When I reviewed it in the cinema, I know a lot of critics really liked this one, but I was one of these people who could see past the mirage that it was actually appearing with the film itself, because I don't think Eddie Redmayne should have even been nominated as Best Actor. So there was multiple other films that I saw prior to this, which I felt like actors were stronger in those films compared to this.
I don't think it's a bad performance. I just think it's a bad matching of performance and direction. I don't think they work together in it.
I don't think it's a bad performance neither. And Eddie Redmayne, the problem with Eddie Redmayne is it's Jupiter Ascending is a bad performance for Eddie Redmayne. It's an absolutely atrocious performance for him. But he seems to be, if you take that out of the picture, he seems to be an actor who's incapable of making a bad performance. So if you forget Jupiter Ascending, which is really hard to do, but if you forget it, then he seems to be an actor who can't do that. It is Alicia Vikander, who she didn't get anywhere near the plaudits that she definitely deserves. I think she's by far the strongest element of the film itself. It's just also everything else around them, all the supporting characters. Amber Heard's one, Matthias Schoenherdt's.
Amber Heard's character is completely forgettable, even despite she's more of a plot point. She moves the plot forward rather than actually being a character in the film.
Same with Ben Whishaw as well. It's just all the superfluous characters. That's exactly what they are. They're just thrown in there to be exactly what you've just said there, plot points. Because the Matthias Schoenherdt's character is just brought in to give love to Alicia Vikander, because she wants her husband back, but she's unable to get her husband back because he's conflicted about who he actually is, and so she seeks love and attention in the arms of somebody who might be able to give that. Now, if you sort of like flesh out his character a bit more, then we know that Matthias Schoenherdt can handle that kind of thing, but unfortunately the character that he's given in this movie is so very flat. And that's exactly like Amber Heard. She seems to be the bright spark. If you look at, she's got a very sort of like 1940s dancer to her, though the way she acts about her character. And you think interject her a little bit more into the film, and it would have made a much more interesting film. The Danish Girl section of the film isn't as strong as what Tom Hooper thinks it is. The Alicia Vikander, the Gerda section of the film, is the standout bit of the movie.
It's a film as well. Having looked, if I hadn't looked up it, I would have still had a feeling of that. There are things in this film that, especially comparing it against The King's Speech. The King's Speech is something that they based on true events, and they took details and they found details that actually existed through diaries that they found of the character in the film. And In this, though, they took details, and the thing is, they omitted certain details that were found. And there were some details that weren't known because it was all before the war in Germany, and things happened, and history records of things were lost. But there were things that they definitely did know for sure that were left out of the story and out of the character. And it felt like these bits were missing, even when I didn't know they were missing. I felt like there should have been more there. Knowing they were missing just confirms that, you know, it's they may have taken them out and they thought, oh, this is going to feel a bit too contrived if we do this in a film. I think we've added it in. But if these things have been in there, such as to do with the problems with that happened with operations later and stuff and that sort of thing, there was a lot more detail that should have been included in the film that isn't. It just felt very lacking as a result of that, and not even once I knew that was missing, even more so. I wish they had not left out certain elements, and I mean all the way, not just towards the end. I mean the whole film, there were elements that should have been there that weren't.
If you lose attention on the film, you would actually think that the Danish Girl is Alicia Vikander.
Well, I think the title, as much as it's based on a book already, I think the title intentionally was left as that to kind of play as a kind of a double meaning there, so intentionally for that, because of the fact of that it's a film which has, as much as it has a lead character, by a lead character it has two characters that neither of them is given enough to be a lead, and so the two of them together is one lead character, and that's the two performances. It doesn't quite work, and that's the problem. Why it doesn't have the contents that it should have.
Moving on then to Creed, directed by Ryan Coogler. This is sort of like, you could look at it as like a spin-off to the Rocky franchise. You could look at it as a sequel to the Rocky films. It doesn't matter how you look at the film itself, it still fits into the Rocky mold. It centers around the character played by Michael B. Jordan, who plays Adonis Johnson, as he's called, or as he's called as is Donnie. He's it follows a very stereotypical kind of storyline where he is sort of like a leer about, somebody who doesn't concentrate on things, bit hot-headed, that kind of thing, very much similar to what his father was like. However, his father, Apollo Creed, in Rocky IV, is sort of like, he understands what life is like, whereas he just seems to be wanting to be, I wouldn't say on the coattails of life, but he seems to just want to steamroll it and not pay attention very much to it. And so he decides to pretty much seek out a mentor, somebody who's able to actually see him for what he is, but also bring out the best in him. And who better than to do that than Rocky himself, played by Sylvester Stallone. Here's a clip.
This was taken from the 10th round of the first fight, right?
Good call. How'd you know that?
I heard about a third fight between you and Apollo. Behind closed doors. That true?
How'd you hear about that?
Who won?
It's kind of a secret. What'd you say your name was?
Donnie.
Okay. Well, the girl said you wanted to talk about something?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about training me.
Training? I don't do that stuff no more. Sorry about that. Listen, it's getting kind of late, kid, so I'm going to close up.
How good was he?
Apollo? Yeah, he's great. He's a perfect fighter. Ain't nobody ever better.
So how'd you beat him?
Time beat him. Time, takes everybody out. It's undefeated. Anyway, I got to lock up.
So when Mickey died, he came and talked to you, right? Talked you out of quitting. Took you to L.A., trained you. Brought you back.
How do you know all this?
How do you think?
What are you, like a cousin?
He's my father.
Now, as you can hear in that there is reluctance in Rocky's voice, and it's there prevalent throughout the first half of the film. He's reluctant to even acknowledge Donnie, but also when Donnie tries to persuade him to help him out, he is still reluctant to do that. Eventually he comes round, and it's up to Donnie, with the help of Rocky, to try and train as best as he possibly can to go up against Tony Bello. who plays Pretty Ricky Conlon. Now, Tony Bello, if you follow boxing, he is a boxer in the UK. Very cocky boxer, but he is definitely literally a boxer. This is his first acting role. Now, the film itself it's a really heavy film to put on the shoulders of Michael B. Jordan. It's a movie that will collapse any kind of actor, because it needs a strong performance, especially on the coattails of the Rocky franchise. The fact that Rocky is... A lot of people out there absolutely love the franchise. Even if you pick it apart and look at some of it, you can still latch onto one of the previous Rocky films. And so it's going to be a difficult thing, not just for Jordan to create a new character and somebody to get on with, but also Coogler to direct it. And I think both of them pull it off really well. The director works alongside Michael B. Jordan excellently. He's able to create the character of Donnie, but also you look at him and see bits of Rocky in him, which is probably the best thing to do, rather than just give him his own kind of feeling to it. You need that Rocky element there, and just because Sylvester Stallone is in the film playing Rocky to try and train him up, you still need that Rocky element in there in the lead character, and it's just brilliantly well done by Michael B. Jordan. Sylvester Stallone is very good in the film as well. I don't think he deserved the Oscar nod, but he's still really good in the film itself. And overall, for a person who's not into this kind of movie, I've slowly been turned around to these kind of films over the last few years. The turning point for me was Warrior. I absolutely loved that movie. And because these films are not just centering around the boxing now, or the sport that the film is supposed to be involved in, it's centered around the drama of the character, and this is actually putting them to the forefront. They're working. There is the cheesy stuff in it. There is the quick cut montage kind of stuff, but you need that in a Rocky film. It's a staple of a Rocky movie, and there is an iconic scene in sort of like retold in the film as well. But you sort of like let them have that moment as well. It's just a well done, he's a belt for you kind of moment. But overall, for a person who wouldn't like this kind of film 5-10 years ago, I actually did quite like the film. I thought it was really well made.
Okay, on to then I Am Wrath, which is directed by Chuck Russell. It is a revenge thriller movie this week with John Travolta in the lead role. He stars in the film with starts out with him getting home to his wife. They're attacked as they're getting into the car. She is killed and he is just beaten. He then starts to sort of look at the whole thing of justice, and it turns out he then is kind of brought out of somewhat retirement, as he previously was. It's kind of left unclear, but he was either a contract hitman or some kind of a ex-military man or something, who one of these kind of types who has a breakaway wall in his garage that he can break through, and look, there's a bag lying there with dust on it which happened to have a whole load of guns and weapons and fake IDs and that kind of thing in it, and goes out to start looking for revenge, finding that there is more sort of to do with this than just gang killings and to do with sort of police corruption. We get films every now and again on the show, and each week sometimes would have a kind of bargain basement department. This is that department this week. It's basically a rehash of, if you ever saw the Nicolas Cage film Justice or Seeking Justice, and the James Wan film Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon. It's basically a mash-up of those two things. There's nothing original about it. John Travolta is completely on autopilot mode. The film is not especially outstanding in any way. There's nothing special about the actions. There's nothing about the story or the dialogue or anything that makes it outstanding. It is straight to video and pretty much straight to TV movie land. Nothing special about it. Chuck Russell was directed. The last film he directed was 2002, and it was The Scorpion King.
Ooh.
Yeah. Boom goes the mic. Yeah, that kind of thing. So it's literally bargain basement, wait for it to come up on TV, and even then watch it if you're feeling sleepy.
I think I'd rather watch something else if I'm feeling sleepy, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Final film of the week, Mojave. It's directed by William Monaghan. It centers around the character of Tom, who's played by Garrett Hedlund. He sets off into the middle of the desert to pretty much commit suicide. He works at a TV station, but he's there to try and push the boundaries of himself. And he spends the night out in the desert when out of nowhere comes Oscar Isaac's character, who plays Jack. Sort of like tension erupts between both characters instantly, straight away. Then they leave sort of like a bitter pill and a bitter taste in Jack's mouth, Tom, when he actually escapes from the desert in the clutches of Jack by hitting him over the head with a gun that he's got, leaving him unconscious, and he escapes back there. However, Jack did not like what happened in the desert, and so he decides to seek out Tom and make his life hell. And it's a battle of wits between both of them. Thrown into the mix, you've got Walter Goggins' character, who plays a PA to Mark Wahlberg's one, who's a very spoilt actor who lives in this really huge, massive, illustrious mansion.
Not playing very hard role to get in there, is he?
No, but very much like what he did in Entourage. See, this is the thing with the film itself. It's horrible. The film is absolutely atrocious. It is really atrocious, especially considering the actors involved. It's an absolute car crash of a movie. You start off with a car crash, pretty much, and the film goes absolutely downhill from there. The Mark Wahlberg character looks like he is plucked from Entourage, exactly from that, because when that scene popped up, I thought there was something wrong with the film. I thought, what? This is a different film, this. And then it goes back to both the characters of Jack and Tom. The dialogue is horrible. The dialogue feels like what they've done is they've given a 6-year-old kid to rewrite all of Shakespeare's plays. Then given it to Oscar Isaac himself and go, you know what, you take a crack at rewriting the 6-year-old stuff. And then giving it back to that said 6-year-old and asking him to rewrite the rewrite. It is really badly implemented in the film itself. Nothing of the movie is any good at all. It tries to flip itself onto the head and turn into a stalker/serial killer movie, and it can't even succeed on even just instigating 1 ounce of tension. Everybody in the film should be completely ashamed of what they've created, because this is just... It's horrible. It's really deplorable kind of stuff. It's not just one movie to avoid. It's one movie to make sure it's struck off the annals of movie history. It should be forgotten about. It is rotten. It's rotten to the core. I absolutely hated this film.
I think that we should both have to watch the other. You should have to watch I Am Wrath, and I should have to watch Mojave, and we see which is worse. Have a worse off.
This is guaranteed to make my worst 10 of the year.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
That horrible.
Wow.
I couldn't stand the film.
I wouldn't put I Am Wrath in my worst films of the year, because it's that kind of completely forgettable. It's not that bad that I go, oh, this is absolutely terrible. I just go, that was rubbish.
Yeah, it's 93 minutes of a movie, and it's a 93 minutes of a movie that feels like it's on for 193 minutes.
You want to know what? Actually, I'm going to double check it, but I'm pretty sure your movie is like 3 minutes longer than I Am Wrath. I'm sure that's what it is. I'm. Hang on a minute. I'm going to just double check that.
But I can't believe that people like Oscar Isaacs and Garrett Hedlund and Mark Wahlberg and even Walter Goggins is involved in something as horrible as this. I know Mark Wahlberg was in the Entourage movie, and I didn't like that film at all. It made my worst 10 of the year. Well done to him, because he's made my worst 10 of the year 3 years in a row.
92 minutes.
Yeah.
We're 1 minute difference between your film and our film. Saying that, Mark Wahlberg made your worst film, but he made your best film 1 year.
Yeah, but 3 years in a row he's going to make my worst list. Mojave this year. Last year was Entourage. The year before that was Pain and Gain.
Well, we've still got 2/3 of the year to go. You don't know yet.
He's guaranteed to be in the top 10, bottom 10, whatever you want to call it, worst films of the year, because it's going to take some absolute major stinkers to just get this horrible taste out of my mouth. TV movies of the week then, because none of these will actually be nowhere near as bad as what that film is.
Okay, we've got a couple of to mention. Wednesday the 16th of May at 9 o'clock on Film 4 is Prisoners, which we've done mention before, but it's a William. Not William. Is it William? I can't think of the name. Director.
You lost Dennis Villeneuve.
Dennis Villeneuve. Well, I'm thinking William something. No. Oh yeah, Dennis Villeneuve did, I think, a fantastic job with this film, and it's a really gripping film. Bear in mind, 9 o'clock on Film 4 will have adverts, so it will probably be around about the 3-hour mark by the time the adverts are added to it, because it's a long film as it is. But it's a great film with good performances there. You have Attack the Block is my other sort of film mentioning on Saturday the 22nd of May on E4 at 9 o'clock. But my choice of the week, and it's a bit old one for me to choose this one, but Tuesday the 17th of May, so tomorrow night, Film 4, 9 o'clock, The Wolverine. And I'll tell you why I'm choosing The Wolverine as my movie of the week. Because of the fact I am a Marvel fan. This isn't Marvel, this is 20th Century Fox, but they have the X-Men characters. And The Wolverine was the first film after all the films they did which totally got the character of Wolverine spot on from the comics and how he is. It is a film that does the character so much justice in the way he is, the way he behaves, and Hugh Jackman's portrayal, that it is one of my favourite performances. It's not a great film. It has its problems with things like the villains, and towards the end of the film it completely starts to fall apart. But I do absolutely love the character of Logan, of the Wolverine in the film. I think it's a brilliant performance in it, and that's why I do enjoy it. I really love that film.
I think it's an absolutely terrible film. But,
but you're not a comic book fan though, like I am, though, are you?
I know, but I don't care. Even if I was a
So I mean, my
my
my view of it is then a TV movie of the week. If you like comic books and you have a love or an interest of the characters, in particular Logan or the Wolverine from the X-Men series, you need to see the Wolverine, because it is the best version of Wolverine on screen.
No, the cartoon is. But Prisoners was one of my choices film for Wednesday the 18th, not the 16th, like you said, because the 16th isn't today.
Oh, sorry, yes, wrong date.
9 o'clock, yeah, brilliant performances in that one. But my TV movie of the week is on the Horror Channel on Thursday the 19th at the same time of 9 o'clock. It's The Mist. It's the Frank Darabont film.
With dark ending.
No, there's like dark ending, and there's oh my god, what the heck did I watch kind of ending.
Yeah.
It's getting turned into a TV series, and I was having speculations with Stuart and Lauren on the horror show, the last horror show I did, and we were trying to come up with how they could create this into a TV series. And there is stuff that you could actually turn this into a TV series, because it's just the way The Mist is actually set. It's a very condensed kind of film, so you can expand on more with the TV series, and so I think a TV series would work really well. But
I'm just having a look because I'm curious to see, because there are two versions of the film, and I'm curious to see which version it is they'll be showing, because there's one where it goes to black and white for the Mist sequences, and one where it's just colour all the way through.
I'm not sure what version they're.
I'm just trying to see actually on their website if it says, but I don't think it does, because I'm just curious as to which version it would be.
It's definitely worth a watch. It's a really good movie. It's got very sort of like religious undercurrents in the film itself, which does grate on you a little bit, because there's a few characters who I would love to have just reached into the TV and punched them, because they are so badly annoying, and you can understand why Thomas Jane's character reacts the way he does during the movie itself. But it's still a very well created film. Frank Darabont gets Stephen King. He just really does get him. So that's my TV movie of the week. But overall, what is your movie of the week?
I'm going to have to kind of say it is Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, but if you're feeling brave and you have the interest, then see Green Room.
I would see a Mustang, but that's only going to be for like a small select audience, because I don't think everybody is going to want to watch something like Mustang. But if you want something to entertain yourself, take your kids to see the Angry Birds movie. Like I say, it's not going to set the world on fire, but it's still a very enjoyable enough film for the 90-minute running time that it's on. And that's it for this week's show. Make sure you check out the website to discover when we're on air next. It's mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show, Twitter @Monday Movie Show. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole. Andrew's at EHDVD. You can email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. Leave us comments, feedback on iTunes, on Spreaker, and on any of the Android apps as well. From page 2 screen was the advert that you heard during the break there. There's a horror show coming soon. He's also got some other shows going up on there. There's Following the Gamer, which is live on Saturday night this week, 9 o'clock, with me, Shane, and Al, the Ball Gamer Dudes, joining us again for this show. And you can also check the show out and this one on followingthenerd.com. And thanks to anybody who joined us in the live chat there. David, thank you very much for joining us in the live chat. It's appreciated. So we'll be back next week with a review of a tiny little film, which we'll play you out with a clip of. It's a new movie called The X-Men, I think.
Acapulco? What?
Acapulco.
Yeah, in Acapulco. X-Men in Acapulco, yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll be reviewing X-Men in Acapulco next week on next week's show.
Yeah, we won't be in Acapulco though, unfortunately. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually, I could do with a holiday. Acapulco does sound nice. Well, here's the clip anyway for the X-Men Apocalypse, and until next week, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Ever since the world found out about mutants in '73, there have been cults who see them as some kind of second coming or sign of God. I was tracking one of them. They call themselves a Shir En Sabanur, named after an ancient being they believe to be the world's first.
World's first what?
The world's first mutant. These describe a specific set of powers, greater than any man could possess.
An all-powerful mutant.
Exactly. And wherever this being was, he always had 4 principal followers, disciples, protectors he would imbue with powers.
Like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You got that one from the Bible.
Or the Bible got it from him.
I still can't believe there's going to be a Play-Doh the movie.